In CSS, relative length units are relative to other length values, and the most commonly used relative unit is the M unit. The M is what's called a font relative unit because it's calculated based on a parent element's font size. So anytime we give an element's property a value of 1M, that 1M is equal to the font size value of the parent element. So for example, the default font size for most browsers is 16 pixels. So if we set our page's body font size value to 1M, this is equivalent to setting the font size value to 16 pixels. So here, by default, 1M is equal to 16 pixels, 2M's would then be equal to 32 pixels, and so forth. So now, if we want to define the font size of our header title in M's, let's scroll down to our header rule, and let's change the 26 pixel value to, say, 3M. So with this 3M value, the title element is still inheriting that font size value from the body element, and it's multiplying it by 3. So if we save our style sheet and take a look at it in the browser, now the title looks really big because the value 3M is making it 3 times that body font size context. So now it's equivalent to 48 pixels. And if we go back to our style sheet and change the body font size to a larger value, let's say 2M, when we save our style sheet and take a look at it again, now the title gets even bigger because its M value scales to that larger body font size context. Now, if we go back and make the body font size smaller, let's say 0.5M, and we save and refresh the browser, the title's font size value is now relative to that smaller font size of the body, so the title now looks a lot smaller. But let's go ahead and keep the body context at 1M moving forward. So I'll just change the font size value back to 1M in the body rule. So if we save our style sheet and take a look at our header element again, so our title's font size is still too big. We'll need to define a smaller M value that's equivalent to the title's original font size of 26 pixels. So how do we do that? Well, to convert a pixel value to its equivalent M value, we can follow a simple formula. We'll need to divide the desired element's pixel value by the parent element's font size in pixels, which again, in our case, is the body font size equivalent to 16 pixels. So 26 divided by 16 gives us a value of 1.625. So next to our font size declaration, let's add a comment to remind us the equation we used and what this value means in pixel units. So we're going to write 26 pixels divided by 16 pixels. Now we're going to change the font size value to 1.625M. So now when we save our style sheet and take a look at our preview once again, we can see that the title is now exactly the size we need it to be. So now that we know how to convert pixel values to M's, let's also define our H1's font size as an M-based value. Now currently, it's set to 90 pixels, so let's once again add a comment next to the font size declaration that says 90 pixels divided by 16 pixels, and this gives us an M-based value of 5.625M. So now we know that the M is a useful unit for creating scalable content because it can adapt to other font sizes. This way, child elements are able to resize proportionally based on a parent font size, without us having to manually calculate and redefine all the different font sizes for child elements, like we would have to do with pixels. Now, an important thing we need to keep in mind when font sizing with M units is that there is a compounding effect that happens in nested elements. So let's go over an example of that. So if we go back to our style sheet and give the main header element a font size. So let's add a font size property and set the value to 2M. Now the main header font size of 2M becomes the new context for our title and heading font sizes. Since, as we can see here in the HTML, the main header is their parent element. So the title and the H1's font size is now relative to this font size of 2M. So now when we save our style sheet and refresh the browser, notice how the font size scales up based on that new context of 2M. This is the compounding effect I mentioned earlier. So let's stop and take a look at what's happening here. So the 2M font size value we applied to main header is equal to 32 pixels because it's 2 times that base font size equal to 16 pixels up here in the body. So this means that now our title font size is 1.6 times larger than 32 pixels. So it's now equivalent to 52 pixels. And the H1 is now 5.625 times larger. That's why it looks really big at about 180 pixels. So these are the type of issues we need to be careful with when working with relative M units. This compounding effect can get pretty troublesome depending on how many font sizes we've defined in our style sheet. We don't want to get into a predicament where a deeply nested M-based font size is compounded all the way down from the root element of the document. And we'll learn how to get around this compounding problem next.